This video is sponsored by Fiverr, connecting you with the freelancers you need to help you build your brand, including logo designers, voiceover artists, website developers, and more. So be sure to hit that link in the description, which will take you to my personalized store with nothing but my favorite top Fiverr sellers that I personally am super excited to use. All right, so today we're comparing two cameras, one from this iPhone 11 Pro Max and one which is this Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, 6K. Now I've done a bunch of these wacky comparisons in the past where I compare an iPhone to something really ridiculously expensive like that Red or an Ariel Alexa. But what's interesting about this is the price is not too different from each other. Okay, maybe this is actually quite a bit more expensive, but what's interesting is there is a 4K version of this which is very similar and really powerful, and it's actually less than the price of this iPhone 11 Pro Max. So it's not really about comparing an expensive camera to a cheap camera anymore. It's more about comparing a convenient smart camera to a fully manual powerful camera. By the way, we probably have the dopest giveaway we've had on this channel by far in today's video, so stick around for that. But let's kick this video off by showing you some of the footage out of these cameras. Now, if I were to show you these two cameras side by side, it's actually kind of obvious which one's which, but it becomes a lot trickier if I show them to you one at a time. So what I'm gonna do is show you a clip. You guys try to guess which one it is. Here we go. All right, so let me know. I'm so curious. How did you guys do? Take that poll. Did you get all of them right? Most of them right? Some of them right? Or like none of them right? And let's start off by talking about how impressive this iPhone 11 Pro Max is. It's a phone. Well, no one really uses that as a phone anymore. This Notepad app is probably what I use the most. Like, these are my bullet points of what I need to talk about in this video. Next, I'm supposed to talk about how impressive the HDR on this camera is. It's super impressive when there's a super bright part of the frame like the sky. It takes a lot of the orange in the skies and recovers that. It actually looks like the iPhone has more dynamic range than the Blackmagic. And this is exactly what I mean by how smart this camera is. It's very software driven. Cinema cameras like this, it literally just captures whatever hits the sensor and doesn't try to analyze it or do some weird smart voodoo magic. And the ultra wide lens on this phone is ultra wide, and I've been having trouble trying to find a lens wide enough so I could match this camera to here. And I have a pretty fat lens collection. Like, look at all these lenses, and none of them were wide enough. So I actually had to go out and buy this ultra wide angle lens. This is a 8 to 15 millimeter super wide, so that I can get this to match this wide angle. And here's the thing, even with this ultra wide angle lens, there's no image stabilization built into the lens or the camera. So as I'm walking around handheld like this, there's quite a bit of shake, and to remove that, I'm gonna have to either get like a proper shoulder rig, make this a little bit bigger and give me 3 points of contact, or something like a Steadicam or a gimbal. But again, the phone utilizes that smartness to stabilize the footage electronically. 2 out of the 4 lenses have image stabilization in the lens, but all of them are electronically stabilized. And this is all stuff that happens just completely behind the scenes, right? So you buy the phone, you turn on the camera, and it's doing all this stuff without you even knowing. We look at the footage side by side, and it's very clear that the iPhone just looks so much smoother. But the way they were mounted together, they both pretty much had the same amount of camera shakes. There's a lot of lenses I could put on here that has image stabilization, but I can still tell you it doesn't even come close to being as smooth as what this will give you. The phone can do 120 frames per second, no problem. The Blackmagic has to do a serious crop into the sensor. So So even with an 18mm lens on the Blackmagic, it still looks way cropped. Anyways, I think this is just about enough footage of watching some grown-ass men play in a children's playground. And if I set the iPhone to the ultra-wide angle lens, it's just so much wider. So that's kind of why I felt the need to pick up this 8 to 15mm. It's pretty much a fisheye lens. Another benefit of the phone is actually pretty durable. I've already dropped it a couple times, but I don't think this would survive any drops. On the iPhone, I'm shooting 4K 24 frames per second, and the sharpness is definitely solid. You could literally count the number of hairs on Frank's beard. You literally see the speckles of sand and every snowflake that's fallen down. But when you put it next to the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, you start to see the difference between kind of artificially, digitally sharpened images versus something that was actually captured at a super sharp, high resolution. The iPhone does a good job at enhancing the image out of this tiny camera and tiny sensor, but in my opinion, at least, it just never looks as good as the real thing. Since the Blackmagic is recording at 6K RAW, it doesn't have to do any sort of those digital enhancements. It just has hardware powerful enough to capture everything, making everything look really true and organic and beautiful. So even though the iPhone does give you a very sharp looking image that looks crystal clear, the Blackmagic does a much better job of showing you what's actually there. You know, looking at some of the shots, if we zoom way into the waterfall, there's so much detail in pretty much every quarter of the shot. And if we look way in the background of these trees, you can kind of see that the iPhone processor is trying to enhance it, and everything kind of starts to look muddy and mushed together on the iPhone. But on the Blackmagic, everything is still nice and well defined. Same with the snow. If you look at the iPhone footage of it, you might be like, whoa, you can see the snowflakes falling. But then when you put it next to the Blackmagic, you realize, whoa, there's actually 10 times more snow falling that you couldn't see on the iPhone. I'm definitely not an engineer or software developer or anything like that, and I have an IQ of like 4. But what I do know is typically when you have a small sensor and camera like this, you end up with an image with quite a bit of noise. So a lot of modern cameras now are denoising the image in camera, which is cool because now you have less noise, but there's a lot of estimations that go on in that process, and when you overdo it, the image can start looking blurry. So from there, to make it look sharp again, you have to go in and resharpen everything kind of digitally. And a lot of times you digitally sharpen something and it can look better, but I see it as kind of like tracing an image with a Sharpie. This one's blue. I don't want this fucking blue. I have all these Sharpies and I don't have a single black Sharpie. This makes no sense, guys. I got like a value pack of Sharpies and they only gave me like one black Sharpie, which of course I lost. That's why I got the value pack, so I'd never run out of Sharpies, but great. Oh, look at that, it's stuck. And the resharpening process is kind of just going through and like tracing it with thicker lines like that. So there, now Mr. Happy Pants looks sharper than he did earlier, but it's not like it actually made the image sharper. I just kind of went over and traced over what was already there. And like I said, I'm not an Apple developer or anything, so I could be way off, but this is kind of my educated guess on how this all works. But that would make sense because when we get into low light footage, low light means more noise, which means more denoising, which ultimately gives us a very blurry image. So when we put the two cameras side by side in low light, the iPhone gets crushed. The Blackmagic does start to introduce some grain, but the sensor is capable enough to where it still looks pretty dang good. But phones, on the other hand, sure, you can see what's going on, which is awesome, but a lot of the detail gets lost in low light. Now, even though the Blackmagic doesn't have smart HDR like this phone does, it does have a lot of dynamic range, so you can take the raw footage out of this camera and you could essentially make it look like an HDR shot, but you have so much control of how you want the footage to look. Of course, to get the best results, you're gonna wanna hit that link in the description and buy my LUTs that I made specifically for Blackmagic. Why in the world would you color grade yourself when you could just buy my LUTs and give me money? So in the end, with the Blackmagic, you will end up with a better shot, but it just takes a little bit more work opposed to a phone that just does it all literally without you even knowing. But just like with every smart features, it's not always 100% accurate. Sometimes it'll flatten things out where you didn't want it to flatten out. And finally, of course, we get depth of field with a proper cinema camera like this. In other words, blurry backgrounds. We love that stuff because we tell the audience, hey, look here. Gotta admit, the portrait mode on these phones, they've done a killer job of making it look like it was taken on a professional camera. But I'd be curious if they could apply that technology into video. But the beauty is that these cinema cameras are becoming more and more affordable. Like I said, the 4K version of this camera is a beast, and again, it's less than what I paid for this iPhone. And that brings us to our giveaway. We are giving away a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K to one of you guys. All you gotta be doing is following me and Condor Blue on Instagram, and when you see this photo pop up on their Instagram page, make sure you like it, and then boom, you're entered. So shout out to Condor Blue for giving away that camera. I mean, that's a hot item right now. They make a whole bunch of camera accessories, so definitely worth checking them out. Like this arm, which you use to mount like a monitor or any sort of accessory. But I love that they have this little hole right here, so you can take a little Allen wrench or something and stick it through it and just really crank it down so that it doesn't come loose, because I hate it when you mount a monitor onto a rig and it just loops. So tightening it down with that extra torque is awesome. They got quick release plates, so you can mount this to your monitor and it can just clip onto it like that, instead of taking your monitor, you know, and just like spinning it around with all the cables wrapping around. And this is my favorite right here. This is just a handlebar that attaches to a rosette. So you could attach this onto a cage or a shoulder rig. You could extend it out to where you want it. And there's a button right here to adjust your angle. Oh, I mean, this is so simple, but why haven't I seen this before? This is awesome. Oh, look at that. I love it. So good luck to everyone who's entering. I don't know, maybe if you sweet talk them, they'll send you a rig along with the Blackmagic. Anyways, let's wrap this up by reading a few comments from my last video, which was all about the Zhiyun Weeble S, currently one of my favorite gimbals to use with my EOS R. Basically, every comment here is about the giveaway, because we did do a giveaway in that video too. So congrats to the winner right there for winning a gimbal. Every single comment starts off with, Gene, does anyone want it? Me. Hell yeah. Gene, does anyone want it? Me, I must have it. Gene, does anyone want it? Me, I need, like, what is going on? Have you guys all turned into clones? Every single comment starts off like, am I missing something? Finally, we got one comment that doesn't start with Gene. Does anyone want it? Does anyone notice how he says Zhiyun instead of Zhiyun? Okay, to clarify, that is how you say Zhiyun.
This is the correct pronunciation for Zhiyun. Now you know.
Oh, what? Our sponsor Fiverr wants us to hurry up and wrap up this video so they can put in their app. We got it. Fiverr empowers us and our brands by giving us easy access to a global community of freelancers to help you build your brand, including logo designers, copywriters, website developers, professional voiceover, storyboard artists, and more. So check out my curated store in the description below for my recommendations on top Fiverr sellers. So hit that link. I've been meaning to tell you, but I've been trying to be nice about it, but your logo kind of sucks. It needs some work. So, you know, now's probably a good time to get it professionally made. So what you waiting for? Get on it.